Hello, friends. This is Jake and George, and also joining us this fine day is Nick Diamond. I call him Nicky D. Nobody else calls him Nicky D, but I like it. But for all of you who have been to church, you know that Nick's a vital part of Vue Church. And for those of you who may not have been able to come out, but I've been following along, Nick means a lot. And one of the reasons why one of our very first episodes on our podcast was having our elders on. And each person kind of serves their own individual part as the whole at Vue Church. And Nick's obviously a vital part, being a worship leader, singer, and he's just an amazing person. So really, we wanted you to get to know him a little bit. And George and him go back along, and I've really enjoyed getting to know Nick this year. It's been wonderful. So George, why don't you start? Give a little bit of pretext into how you and Nick met. Kind of y'all's love story, and then we can kind of continue on from there, because I know that you guys have known each other a long time, have worked together, but really share a lot of passion around the same things that we all do and really value about what we're trying to do at Vue Church. So I'll let you take it, George.
Well, first, Nick he's a dear friend. Met him in 2005, and I think it was a Waffle House. Debbie and I met him in
yeah, that was our first.
Yeah, you were about to have your second child. I mean, what a great place to meet someone, invite them to be the worship leader.
Oh, perfect.
Waffle House. But Nick and I connected immediately, just in heart and spirit, because he's an athlete, and but he loves creativity and music, and so I'm sorry, I'm getting like this. I'm getting feedback in mine. Are you guys hearing that?
Yeah.
No, I don't hear it.
It's done now. It's done now.
Okay. Were you hearing it?
I was hearing it. Well, can you cut this part and just start back?
Yeah, I think I'll be able to.
Okay.
You think I should put my ears in? Is it gone? Yeah, it's gone now.
It's gone now. I don't know. It's not on mine because I have my ears in. So.
Okay. All right. We'll just pick up right here.
Okay.
But anyhow, Nick, what was your experience of meeting me?
It was good. It was a good experience. By the way, thank y'all for the kind words. I'll slip you a $20 bill. Yeah, I can't remember. I know we went to Waffle House, but I thought we met a little bit before that. I don't remember. I know we went to Oasis with you guys for one of their services, right, or something. Then we went to Waffle House.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But anyhow, we connected, and he was such a help to me, and we needed it desperately. And he knew lots of people and was bringing other players and musicians to our church, and so he loved to gather and do this work with people. But he was also a connector of other creatives, and so it was very helpful in those early days as a 30-something church planner. And then Nick and I, well, Nick, first of all, tell us a little bit about your upbringing, because
that's one thing that definitely connected us together, and we had a mutual experience with, was our upbringing. So my dad is a minister, a pastor. So I grew up a PK, a preacher's kid. I'm the youngest of 6. A lot of my siblings play and sing and stuff as well. And so, yeah, basically we were the church band, growing up. So, yeah, my dad's full gospel, Assemblies of God, Pentecostal, all wrapped in one type of preacher. And that's how we grew up, man. So, it was church 3 or 4 days a week almost,
Wow.
So like, Sundays in the morning, at night, Wednesday night services, Bible studies, so raised in church, and just always had a gift for music. Growing up, when I'm mainly a drummer, and that's why I moved to Nashville, was to pursue a music career as a touring and studio drummer. But yeah, just grew up in church, man, playing. Eventually, again, mainly drums, but started taking piano lessons, and started taking some voice lessons, which I hated, and I still hate my voice to this day. I don't consider it. I don't know why, but thankful that I had the opportunity to get some lessons. And then I would say, I don't know, mainly did drums until probably getting into high school. And at my dad's church, our keyboard player, left, and we didn't have a keyboard player. So they were like, "Congratulations, you're the new keyboard player." So I was like, "Oh, I don't know what to do." But yeah, so that from that point on, I started playing a lot of piano, and then started kind of leading some of the music as well, and it just kind of went from there. But in 2000, I graduated in 1999. I moved to Jacksonville, Florida, right out of high school, and went to help a church over there called Celebration Church. That's actually a pretty big church now in Jacksonville. But at that time, they were about 2 years old. Set up, tear down, meeting in a gym at a school, kind of like we are right now. So was a part of that team, and I wasn't their main music guy at all. I was just helping. But was a great experience, as a young man. That's my first time to leave the nest and get out on my own, and that was a great experience for me. But got to help out that church, and then was able to move to Nashville in 2001 with a buddy of mine that I went to high school with, who was also a bass player. And he eventually started playing for Jeremy Camp for quite a few years. But didn't really know anybody when I moved to Nashville. It was just me and my roommate. I moved out to Antioch because I didn't know, it's like, oh, it's cheap out here, But yeah, so it was really far away from actually, the scene in Nashville. I quickly realized and was like, what am I doing way out here? And I, honestly, for the first year when I was here, I didn't do any music at all, because I just didn't know anybody. I didn't know what to do. So just waited tables and, was just trying to get into Nashville life. And then I left. I met my wife during that time, and we were dating. September 11th happened, which was obviously huge for everybody in this country. And at the time that I moved here, my dad had lost his music minister at his church. And they were kind of going through a lot of stuff at the church, and a bunch of people had kind of left. And he was really just kind of struggling, And so he was kind of asking me continually, hey, would you please move back, home and help me and at the church? And I was, I really didn't want to have anything to do with that, because just the way that upbringing was and that church and me growing as a young man and in my faith and stuff, I had a lot of issues with kind of growing up that way, like church baggage, as a lot of us have when we grow up in church. And so I really didn't want any part of it, but I was really torn because, it's family, it's my dad and stuff, but I still was not planning on doing it until after September 11th. And we really went to church that Sunday, that weekend after that happened. And my girlfriend and I at the time, which is now my wife, man, God just really spoke to us and really spoke through my wife that, just rededicate, not that we were living, a heathen lifestyle or out there, partying and doing everything, but just, wasn't living for the Lord like we probably should. And really, I think that hit a lot of us at that time to reevaluate our life and, our walk and our journey and what we're doing. And so God really spoke through my girlfriend at the time. And basically we got in the car, and she was like crying, and I was like, man, that was a good service, babe, but where are we going to lunch? You can kind of move on, and she was like, you're not gonna believe what I'm about to say, because keep in mind, we'd only been dating for like 4 months or 5 months. Can't remember exactly how long, but yeah, basically she said, man, I really feel like God is, and also keep in mind, my wife was really not raised in church. I mean, she kind of was, but she was not super spiritual into like God speaking to me. I have a word, like all that stuff. She knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
So for her to say what she's told me was it really hit me as, oh, that is a God thing. But she was, she said, you're not going to believe it, but I really feel like God's speaking to me and telling me that we need to move back to Baton Rouge.
Wow.
We're from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and help your dad at his
Mm.
church.
Mm.
I was like,
Did Dad call you?
I was like,
Did my
wait a
dad
second.
get to you?
But anyway, so I, immediately I just felt the Lord speak to me and was just, through that, and was like, yeah, that's what I want you to do. And so he kind of worked it out, man. We got engaged, like right there. It was kind of like, well, I guess we're gonna get married, if you're gonna move down there with me and we're gonna do this. So yeah, we went back to Baton Rouge and I helped my dad out. And that was my first kind of music ministry job, because when I grew up, it was just me growing up and helping. It wasn't like a job.
Yeah.
And so anyway, moved there, helped my dad for about 2 years. And man, it was, that was a valley journey of God teaching me a lot of patience and, working with my dad. And we just didn't see eye to eye on hardly anything when it came to ministry and how to do things. But, it was a struggle for me because who am I? I'm this young 21-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And I was, I guess you could say, had enough wisdom even at 25 to know that I didn't know what I was talking about. But I knew that this wasn't for me, this way of doing church and, all that kind of stuff. So it was a real struggle, but it taught me a lot and I grew a lot in that time. But we eventually moved back to Nashville, and then I met George quickly after moving to Nashville, my first year back. And, was just trying to pursue music again, just trying to maybe do the drum thing. And really wasn't focused on finding a job at a church or anything, but just knew that was a gift that I had and I wanted to use it any way I could. And through a mutual friend of ours, David DeMarco, I played a show with him. David DeMarco is a good friend of George that is a worship leader as well that toured around the United States. And I went and played a few shows for him. And through him, he kind of mentioned, hey, man, if you're looking for a job or, wanting to help out at a church, my good buddy George just started a church and he's looking for a guy to do the worship there. And so he hooked us up. We met at the Waffle House, got to know each other. And it was crazy, as George was saying, we just had a lot in common, man. We're both athletes. We're athletic. We love playing sports and, football and basketball. Young at heart guys. George had a similar background, church background, of growing up in that kind of world, that Pentecostal world, and had issues with it himself. And so we really connected with that, with our journey of, being hurt by some of that stuff and just trying to navigate through all that. And then, trying to bring and not eliminating all of it either, because we know there's worth in some of that stuff, that we can bring to the table. And that's what I love about even what we're trying to do at Vue Church here is it's I don't want to say it's hard, but it's not super easy. It's kind of easy to do the normal church thing, to just the modern church thing, where you just turn off all the lights, put some lights, some stage lights up, just have everybody out there, and you just kind of entertain people, and then just go from there. We're really trying to build something to where you do have the presence of God, and you do open people's hearts up and have some of that new technology and everything to set moods and help people get into that place of openness in their worship. But at the same time, it's not just entertaining. We want to incorporate all of our members, everybody in our congregation, to be a part of our worship experience together. And how do you do that? I don't know. You got to experiment with some things. And I love that we are trying to marry, a lot of traditional stuff and you want to say old school, whatever, with the new way of doing and the modern way of doing church. And I really feel like there can be, a good balance to that. And I feel like we're, striving to do that with, incorporating some liturgy moments, some readings, having people from our congregation actually come up during our worship experiences in between our songs and, do a reading together, and we all meditate on that, and, then sing a song that reflects on that, stuff like that I feel like, I don't know, a lot of modern churches don't do that really. And I dig it. I know George really loves it. A lot of our community has said they loved it. So I don't know. We're just really trying to, not to be different. That's just so, easy to say, oh, we're trying to be different.
Yeah.
But it is, it's a growing experience, and I'm enjoying it. It's teaching me a lot. Because it's new for me too, to kind of bring some of these elements to the table. So
I think, Nick, too, that to give some context, people, I was on a church staff. I used to lead. I'd sing leading worship, so I was never the worship leader. And I do want to give you major props for what it means to work with different musicians every other Sunday and having to kind of rehearse on the spot because everybody's busy. So, what you're able to do in a short amount of time is really remarkable. But one thing that I have just been so, I got burned out on when I was in the church world, because most people don't realize how much time is spent in worship arts meetings, which is pretty much like about the service. So you spend all week talking about what worked and didn't work. And it can become almost like this show that people are putting on. And then you analyze the show and you want to do a better show next week. And one of my favorite things about you and George is the only barometer, the only thing that's on the table is, were people singing and do they feel like they were moved? It's not about Nick. It's not about how hot the guitar player's playing was. It's none of that. It's just, was there moments of presence where we all felt connected? And that is so refreshing for someone like me that was in that world for a bit, that was constantly analyzing and trying to get the show good, for you guys to have a completely different thing to say, no, we want this. It's like going back to the basics. It is that ancient return of, let's all sing together. That's pretty similar. I mean, it's pretty simple, really, but it is difficult to pull off.
It's a simple concept, but then it's like, wow, people don't do that, really?
Yeah, right. And I think that's what makes it special for my side. And so I guess really to close out, George, I know that you were talking before y'all came on, there was a marked experience that's kind of shaped. You talked about your trip to Michigan. So you guys talk a little bit about that to kind of close out about how that was a marked experience for both of you, because George, you also have a lot of inclinations on, you're not there, you're not, managing and telling Nick what to sing, but it means a lot to you. You also have a very musical side, that people may not know. I mean, you have a depth of awareness. And I think that some of your most spiritual moments have been at a U2 concert, not at a Christian concert. So, talk a little bit about that experience up to Michigan and what really drives both of y'all when it pertains to worship and why it's so needed in a church environment.
Well, I'll tell you my experience, and I'd love to hear what Nick's experience was of being up there. But I'll never forget the first night we were there. It was a conference called "Isn't She Beautiful?" Mm-hmm. And that's the current series that we're doing. Mm. And I've been to lots of different conferences, and this one was remarkably different in the sense that people were all they were gathered in a round, and while we were singing, you could see people across the room singing too, people standing with hands raised, and it was very communal. And it felt like it was about what everyone was experiencing together and not just about what was happening on the stage. Mm-hmm. And I remember there was a moment that literally I just began to weep. I sat down in my chair and just like, oh, this is kind of what my heart has been searching for. Like these people are going someplace together. It isn't just 5 or 6 people on a stage performing for people, and so that whole weekend just, I think both Nick and I learned a lot. And one of the biggest things that I think we took away was that they were talking about how in their rehearsals, there's always something missing. It's the voices of the people. It's the presence of the people. It's the hearts of the people. And they actually see themselves as the accompanist to the people. So I think for Nick and I, we began to think about not just what 3 songs can we sing, but what communal worship journey can we go on together? What different things can we incorporate that might open someone's heart or help someone engage, whether it's with clapping or with singing, just with listening, with being still. And so, I think we began to see that worship was defined more by an activity of the heart, and that we could help guide and lead people in that, whether it was a song, a teaching, a prayer, a reflection, a silence, in how we live. And so I know for me, it really changed how I understood what we could do when we gathered in a church building. And so we came back and we experimented with that and tried lots of different things. But I was just so thrilled that Nick, this guy, was willing to kind of take some risks with that and was actually inspired by it too. And then the part that Nick brings that I absolutely love is he doesn't let go of excellence. And, technology can help. If it was my choice, I'd throw everything out, all the technology, but he's helped me keep technology engaged where we don't serve it, but it serves us and helps us go on this communal worship journey together. And so we try to limit it, but use it in the best way to help hearts experience God's love and presence. And so that was kind of my takeaway. It really rocked my heart and my world. And, I began to look at it differently. Nick, what was your experience?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the same. I mean, it really was. It was, and I think that's another thing that drew us closer together was we were both experiencing all the same stuff, was just super drawn to, I'd never seen church done that way, ever. It was either, people bucking, shaking, running around the church, like the whole, Pentecostal thing, which I grew up with.
Right.
Which was fun. I mean, that was fun to experience. And again, I think there's some of that, a very small percentage of that can be used and God can work through. But it was either that or, this new way of modern doing church, the Hillsong, that whole experience of, which is great too. And you go to that and it's like, oh my God, the church can actually be better than the world when it comes to not entertainment, but music and the production of music and the lighting and setting an atmosphere for people to really be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it sounds awesome. Because for a long time, man, growing up in the 80s and 90s, church music
was awful.
Terrible.
Awful.
It was awful. The only thing that was good is if you did go to a full gospel Pentecostal church and they had that gospel feel and good musician. And that's the only really time you experience good music in church from my experience. And so when the late 90s came and the early 2000s with Vineyard music and then Hillsong came out and all these other people, it was really amazing that oh my God, church music can be really good, and moving. And so then it went that way, which was a great experience too, but you lost, what George was talking about, you lost some of that communal worship, I feel experience, that it was just gone. And so when we went to that conference, we didn't know what we were really missing until we went there and experienced it. And when everybody, like George was talking about, they were in the round, how we do kind of a semi round at the Vue Church, trying to, work with what we have. But everybody was, around the stage and people wanted to be there. And it was very minimalistic when it came to lights and production, but they did have good production. It sounded really good.
Yeah.
And man, they started out with just a guy on the piano, and he actually did this weird thing, and I can't remember exactly what he did, George, but maybe
it was tuning your hearts. He went.
He literally opened up the service with, an introduction. Hey guys, so glad you guys are all with us. As you know, we got to prepare our hearts for what we're about to experience together. And what we do is we do this thing called we tune our hearts, we tune our instruments. We need to tune our hearts to what we're about to experience. And I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Mm.
And he started doing this like scale on the piano, like you're in a music class. And he was like, la 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 la. And like the congregation did it right after him. La,
Oh,
la,
that's
la.
cool.
You know, and I was like, oh, what are we doing? But this is
Uh-huh.
amazing. Like, because it just kind of opened up everybody to, okay, we're about to sing. We got to warm up our vocals, you know, and all that kind of stuff all together. It was really neat, man. And then they went into Holy, Holy, Holy. That old hymn, you know, and it was just like, it was just him on the piano, and all the voices started singing. And that, dude, it was so moving. That's when George and I were like in tears. We were just like, holy moles, you know?
Yeah.
And then eventually they added some, you know, the full band, and they, you know, started getting into their worship experience. But it was just really cool how you could strip some things back. And then they incorporated readings together and liturgy moments and scripture, all the stuff all together in their worship experience, which was just different than how we were doing it in modern church, which was trying to emulate the, you know, the hill songs and all that stuff, and just get up there and find good musicians and have really good production. And God moves through that too. I'm not saying he doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's where I love how George and I are right now. I think you can marry the two. I think you can have a good communal worship experience and have, you know, people in your community that aren't musicians or necessarily singers still be a part of the worship journey together. And it be very professional, it sound amazing. And so you have all those elements married together. You know, it's hard to do in a startup church with no budget and all that, but I think we're striving to get there as best, you know, what we have to work with.
Yeah. Well, and I can speak for, you know, to kind of close out, I think I can speak for most people that so oftentimes the music can be there, the singing can be there. From a you can have a great singer, a great guitar player, but it's the heart you bring to it that really ends up speaking to everybody that's there, that encourages them to sing. And I think that you do such a great job of that, of knowing that you're not there to perform, and people, you know, you're great at bringing people in, and you got people that aren't usually used to singing. And so I can speak for most people that have attended that you manage to do that very well. And I know that y'all take it really seriously. And I think that's my main takeaway that I am inspired by you guys is it's not a place of not ever being enough. I think you're just always asking, what can we do to continue down this path of inspiration? And because it matters to us, we're sitting in here in these Zoom boxes right now for no other reason than because getting together matters. It's so important to all of us. And worship is a vital part of the entire experience. So Nick, thank you for joining with us. And I'm sure that many people have enjoyed this and got to know you a little bit. And, you know, I like I said, I can speak from personal experience that I love what you do, but I love who you are. And I know that it means a lot to you, and you come from a pure place with doing it. So George, as always, it's great to see you. And I know we're all thankful for you and your music inclinations too, because I know that it matters to you too as a pastor. And so you also exhibit that. You want to say anything else to close out, George, for anybody that's listening along and excited about some of the, obviously check the website for the upcoming service times as we move into February. But George, is there anything that you want to close out with for anybody that's been following along?
Just honored to do this with Nick and others. And I think what I love most about Nick is that we do really strive to be servant leaders. Like we don't really see ourselves as performers or, you know, people that necessarily want to be in the spotlight. We really want to guide and lead people to a more healthy, life-giving place. And so sometimes in our services, it'll be upward and celebration. Sometimes it's going to be personal and reflective, but we want to cover the whole gamut so that all of our hearts can experience more of what it means to be human and to be alive. So I'm just thrilled to do this with you guys in these boxes and all the folks listening on the other side.
Yeah.
So
thank you all. Well, thank you guys for joining us, and we look forward to continuing to do more of these on our off weeks when we're not meeting in person. But we love you all, and you are also a vital part of our worship experience. So thank you guys for coming and participating, and we encourage you to continue to lean into that, because it's only going to affect your life. And make our service that much better with you being there. So we hope you can join us in person, and we love you all, and we'll talk to you soon. See ya.